Hello, I'm Fantastic and today I'm going to be talking about the Valentine's rare machine that has just come to North America. So it is very close to Valentine's Day, so this is pretty good. But as a general blanket statement, seasonals such as this tend to be lackluster affairs. And the reason for that is because the bottom rarity is populated by tremendously old cards that never received any meaningful buffs. And some of these cards have been around for like 6, 7, maybe 8 years. Like, it's a little absurd. And because of how old they are and how little love they receive, they will just be clogging up the machine and drastically overpopulating the rolling odds. Because if we look at it, the 5-star base cards, they comprise 55% of the rolling pool. And none of these cards are actually helpful. In fact, all the 6 and 5-star cards I feel are pretty horrible. Like, anyone with a modestly developed box will gain basically no value from these cards, and that definitely can be frustrating because it comprises 55 plus 27, which equals 82% of the rolls. So 82% of the time you are going to be sad, and you don't have to be a math wizard to realize these are pretty bad odds. So this definitely can be seen as a very skippable event from a rolling point of view. If any of the cards actually speak to you or appeal to you from the upper rarities, you do have the option of at least monster exchanging for them, and at least with some of the cards for orb skins, you could directly purchase them. But again, I would not roll here, and if anything, monster exchange or just roll and pretend it never existed. But without further ado, let's take a look at each of the individual cards. So, Akine is one of the new cards to be released. She's a 9-star card, so she's obviously going to be tremendously hard to roll. And I feel like she does serve a better role as a sub, but I want to take a look at it as a whole first. So she provides 4 skill boosts, which is always helpful. Things can transform easier. She has 2 skill charges, so that means her active skill can charge quicker. You can inherit something a little longer, or you can inherit an active skill of your needs and you can have it charged up in a more timely manner. You have guard break, you have 10 combo, 7 combo, a TPA, and a pretty large attack stat. So as long as you can hit 10 combos, which you definitely can find on rainbow teams, you will be dealing large amounts of damage. And her super awakenings are some of the better ones. You get any of the super resist, blind, poison, or cloud, or jammer, or tape. Like, you get to choose, and that flexibility is nice. Obviously, rolling the one you want might be difficult, but assuming you get the one you want, you're going to have a good time. And her active skill is an 18-turn cooldown, but it can be charged up 3 times faster due to skill charge, and it will give you the ability to bypass void damage shields. So basically, damage void can be ignored for a single turn, and giving a whole board of all 5 colors plus hearts. If you have an Alj, you can get this basically at a similar rate in terms of active skill charging, even with the skill charges factored in. But Alj needs to transform, Akine doesn't, so it gives you a bit of flexibility. But as a whole, I do feel that damage void has become significantly less impactful compared to before, mostly because if we're focusing on, say, like World of Carnage 1, which is probably the most popular dungeon to play at this point in time, there are not too many void spawns, and many of them could be potentially overcome with the VDP latent. So because of that, depending on your team composition, the need for damage void might be lower, which can be a little problematic. As a leader, she is still a reasonable leader, but the problem is she only boosts stats for dragon-type cards. And while her multipliers are quite solid, she has huge damage reduction and big bonus combos, she does have a bit of problems. Like, you only can use dragons, so you are more restrictive, but the bigger issue is Valentine's Ideal is boosting dragons and balance type. And Valentine's Ideal features a much higher attack multiplier. Akine has a very low attack multiplier, I feel. And rainbow teams don't do well with low attack multipliers because it's much harder for them to concentrate damage. They don't get enhanced combos. They can't just flood the board with one color and smash hard. No, they can't do that. So with a low attack multiplier, it's going to be difficult. Yes, you are bulky, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to necessarily work. Dark Loki kind of got away with it, because he just had way more personal damage than any other cards, so it managed to get by. But I feel Akine won't necessarily do that, and the fact that he overlaps so much of Valentine's Ideal will make her less appealing. But at the same time, we can definitely utilize her as a sub. As a rainbow sub, she is definitely strong. Like I said, Akine can be almost like an Alj in the sense that they charge up similarly quickly for their damage void, but Alj needs to transform, Akine doesn't. So if you have other transforming cards in your team, it does give you that amount of flexibility, and you do also gain access to a powerful super resist. So as a whole, I feel like she definitely will function as a much stronger sub, assuming you have a deeper box. But if you're lacking many other options, she definitely can function as a powerful leader. You can pair with your friend, and you do have fixed 10 seconds of movement time. So With fixed 10 seconds, you cannot be time debuffed, but at the same time, if you struggle to fully match a board in 10 seconds, it might be a little punishing to use potentially. For her weapon assist, it's a TPA weapon. Well, it's a double TPA weapon with the ability to have void, damage, void. So maybe the void, damage, void, if you're playing a rainbow team, might be helpful. But again, I feel like this weapon assist would only truly have meaningful value in World of Carnage 2 or Ruler of Hell's Hall. Basically, a dungeon that's not played too often, and for teams that don't have strong void potential, this could be a way to overcome it. But the main appeal for this weapon assist, I feel, is their double TPA. And if you have a Zerog Core weapon assist, and you really don't think this active skill is going to be helpful, a Zerog Core weapon assist is essentially the same thing, because they both provide double TPA. And the reason for double TPA is to use them on something like Raijin or Astalos. Basically, cards who want to match TPA, but will already want to match TPA and have high personal damage. So giving them 2 more TPAs makes their damage output skyrocket. When I use this on my Zerog Core, on my Raijin, or my Astalos, their damage becomes quite meaningful. They can utilize the VDP latent efficiently. So again, it all depends on what team you're using, but I feel that she has more value as a sub as opposed to a weapon assist, especially because Zerog Core should be reasonably common. Like, we had the appreciation medals long ago. We had another event recently. Many players might already have a Zerog Core, and he probably is going to be sitting in that weapon assist. So the need for Akines, I feel, goes down. Next is Valentine's Ideal, and Valentine's Ideal was hallmarked as one of the best leaders in the game for quite a long time, and she still is a strong leader. And the reason why she's a strong leader is because she features fat multipliers, which includes large amounts of effective health. Looking at her leader skill, she has 4 times health and 4 times recovery for balance and dragon types. That's easy enough to do. More options compared to Akine. And you get +4 combos with dual leaders and no Skyfalls. So no Skyfalls, that can be a little problematic. You can't get lucky, so to speak. But at the same time, +4 combos is probably more than the Skyfalls you would have gotten anyway. So I feel like it evens out if you do double Valentine's Ideal. And then you have 484 times attack. Look at Akine, it's 256 times versus 484. Not quite double, but it's almost like every single card in your team has an extra 7 combo awakening. Not quite that extreme, but pretty close to that. So, like I said, rainbow teams have difficulty focusing their damage and concentrating it, so with a higher attack multiplier, you can do so much more. And that's why Valentine's Ideal still remains relevant. She has a single skill charge and a 14-turn cooldown, which is much faster with it, and it gives you 3 times RCV for 3 turns, removes all Awoken Binds, unlocks the board, and gives you a rainbow board changer. So it's a helpful active skill. It's going to provide value. It doesn't give the bind plus Awoken Bind clear. It's only Awoken Bind clear, so you have to be mindful if you're playing through like World of Carnage 2 or Ruler of Hell's Hall, where there's a mixture of both. But if you're playing through World of Carnage 1, there are basically no binds with Awoken Binds. It's really just clear the Awoken Binds, you're fine. So that is helpful there. Valentine's Ideal has reasonable personal damage, but it's this bulk that makes her so wonderful, because it's kind of hard to die with 4 times health and that much damage reduction. You can tank basically everything, and the fact that you can't die means you can heal back up with 4 times RCV and basically grind down spawns. As long as they don't have executes or like preset timers when they kill you, you have a way to overcome them. Now, I don't think she's going to be as dominant compared to beforehand. Like, Valentine's Ideal was one of the better leaders for quite some time, and she still definitely can clear basically all content in the game, I'd say, or nearly all content, but she's not going to be as dominating, because I feel like rainbow teams are going to be on the decline, more so because monocolor is going to get stronger, because the enhanced combo awakening is just so powerful. It's such an easy way to layer in additional damage for doing basically what you were going to be doing no matter what. You're going to be matching combos anyways, well, why not give yourself even more damage? That's the main reason why I think rainbow teams are going to struggle by comparison, because monocolor will just overpass them. For Valentine's Ideal's weapon assist, it gives you a skill boost and enhanced heart orb, so matching a heart TPA gives you a significant boost to healing. Like, it can be nice when you really think about it that way. If you need a transform, you need a healing solution, but the opportunity cost of not utilizing Valentine's Ideal as a leader is going to be quite high, and even if you don't utilize her as a leader, she could still be a strong sub. Like, these are not bad awakenings to have, so I would not pursue her weapon assist unless you have duplicates, or unless you have a truly dedicated place where you think it's going to make a major difference in your pad life. For Valentine's Nay, she has an upgraded active skill. She can reduce Unable to match orb effects by 5 turns, and Bind and Awoken Binds by 5 turns, along with her board changer of Light, Dark, and Heart Orbs. So that is definitely an upgraded active skill. I like the fact that the active skill brings multiple components. At least one will be valuable, because even if you don't encounter the binds or the unable to match orb effects, it's still a board changer. It's not going to be a bad thing to have. So I like these types of active skills, but unfortunately I feel like the body that comes with the active is not as great. Yes, she does have a myriad of offensive awakening. She actually has 2 TPAs, double 7 combo, a VDP, and a Dragon Killer, and the chance to get either another VDP, a TPA, or Skill Boost Plus for a Super Awakening. So flexibility there, but the problem is, it's all these offensive awakenings, but they don't play well with each other. TPA does not have synergy with VDP. Like, it's going to be so hard to match a VDP and a TPA. You're only going to get one or the other. If those 2 TPA were an extra 7 combo and that extra awakening was something else, it'd be a much more well-rounded card by comparison, I feel. So you're kind of having wasted awakenings. And once you say wasted awakenings, it's going to make you much harder to justify using them as a sub because, well, I want my sub to do everything possible for my team. I want them to be amazing in every regards. Valentine is lacking in that aspect. If those TPAs were 7 combo, or better yet, those enhanced combo awakenings, she could have been utilized much more on monocolor teams because her personal damage is not high enough to be a true damage solution, but she's not providing passive damage for your team. It's some skill boost, but not that many necessarily. She doesn't provide resist, so like she's doing reasonable, but not good enough, I feel, to stand out at this point in time. And that's why I've kind of just ranked her as like an average card, like, or maybe a little bit above average. She's doing reasonable, but not excelling. For Valentine Sonia, in her base form, she can have up to 6 skill boosts. So 6 skill boosts on a card that has and meaningful personal damage against devils and machines when you make a VDP could be helpful, but if you are looking for a more leader-oriented card, you should look into her evolved form because her evolved form does lose 2 skill boosts, but you gain more VDP and you have a much higher leader skill multiplier. So her leader skill multiplier gives you 441 times attack for physical, dragon, and devil types, and you also get damage bonus and massive damage reduction when you match 6 or more connected fire orbs. So you want to swipe Rose. So Rose swiping is definitely one of the more favorable approaches for farming content quickly, but the drawback with Sonia, I feel, is that, well, she doesn't have the attack wall below 50%, and she doesn't have personal damage without a VDP, so it can be hard to have a VDP formed, and if you wanted to try and abuse attack wall below 50% across your team, you'll have a tough time because of Sonia's active skill heals you by 70,000 health, which might push you over your threshold. So, like, I feel like she could be a possible farming solution, but you have to utilize a bit more creativity, I feel. It can't just be like mindless row swiping of attack wall below 50%. So you have to, if you're going to utilize your active skill or tap into her VDP potential, you need to have more orb generation. So I think it's a reasonable farming solution, but I feel like things like Chibiur, Dark Omega, Shivnia all outpace her just because attack wall below 50% is really just the best type of farming mechanic, I feel, overall. Next, we come to the 7-star Pano. So this 8 and 9-star cards I talked about could be Monster Exchange. 7-star cards cannot be, and the only way to acquire them is rolling, or you get them through an IAP bundle if they're an orb skin, but Pano is sadly not an orb skin, and they are the best 7-star in the batch. So in their base form, they have 2 skill boosts, and they transform after 20 turns. So with 2 Panos, you have 4 skill boosts, so you really only need to find 16 more across your team. It's quite a bit easier to find that, I feel, overall. And the best part is, in your base form, you actually have durable multipliers. Not hard hitting, but you have 4 times health and 4 times recovery, which means you have a good chance of actually being able to stall for a few turns on turn 1 before you transform, which is definitely meaningful. And once you do transform, wow, you become an amazing damage card. They have 3 enhanced Dark Combo Awakenings, so massive amounts of passive damage for your whole team. And the best part is, your friend will have it as well. So you have 6 of these awakenings just from your 2 leaders. The passive damage is going to be sky high. They have a 10 combo and a 7 combo awakening. They don't have necessarily the best attack stat, but for all this extra passive damage, it's going to be hitting hard. And their active skill is a 3-turn cooldown. And with this 3-turn cooldown, they heal 10% of their maximum health. Might be actually modest. If they have 150,000 health, that's 15,000 healed. Not terrible, not amazing, but not bad. And they create 6 dark orbs. So now you have 2 dark combos, and your leader skill needs you to match 2 dark combos. So you have 2 dark combos from your active skill. If you have another Pano as a sub, you have a system. And then you have 9 enhanced dark combo awakenings. So those 2 dark combos will just be dealing so much damage. And you also get +4 combos with dual leaders. You have that 4 times health, 4 times recovery, 400 times attack, and 43.75% damage reduction. So basically, if you have Panos, you can always have this system of orb generation, which means you get the bonus combos, you get the damage reduction, you hit tremendously hard. And that is pretty magical overall. Like, I feel like they're going to be a very powerful and easy to use leader. And another interesting aspect about them is they're a sub attribute only monster, which means that all of their damage is dealt as a sub attribute. So that means the final hit is your friend's leader for their full damage output, which could be damage capped pretty regularly, I feel, depending on how many enhanced combos you have in the team or enhanced Dark Orb Awakenings, that sort of idea. You could easily hit damage cap. And with that in mind, you could potentially abuse the damage absorption latent. I know it's like such a niche and situational one, but it has synergy with sub-attribute only monsters. And of course, if you're using it, everyone is going to love you as a friend, but it doesn't help you as your own leader. So I feel like the damage absorb latent has issues in that regards. But point of the matter is, it could be a possible niche situational usage for it, because you may not necessarily need to bring a damage absorb counter if you can hit damage cap, and that's probably enough to kill things like Sopdet and whatever. So I feel like a powerful leader overall who just needs to have a solution for VDP. So as a side note, my friend drew Pano with a color scheme that kind of matches like the icon I use. I like water and light, mostly because we're light water, because Sakuya a long time ago had those colors and I thought they were pretty cool. So the next card is Al-Reshka, and Al-Reshka can be utilized as a budget alternative to Sena for those who are not lucky enough to acquire them, because Al-Reshka has a leader skill with very same requirements. You need to match water and fire combo. So you get the damage reduction, you get the bonus combos. And the difference is you have a much lower attack multiplier, you have more health and more RCV multiplier, but you have much less damage reduction. So as a whole, Sena is a much stronger option. Sena also has much better personal damage, but Al-Reshka is someone you might be able to acquire if you IAP for the Orb Skin, and they provide passive damage through the enhanced combos, which can bring up the damage level of the whole team, but their active skill will also create 3 fire and water orbs. It's on a 3-turn cooldown, so not as systemable as Sena, but I feel like it gives you the advantage of not necessarily having to rely on something like Gillian. So I've been utilizing Gillian as a solution for RCV and movement time debuffs, and with Al-Reshka's active skill, you get a similar effect. You do nerf your own RCV, so you just overwrite debuffs. You get the orb movement time bonus to overwrite any debuff, but you don't have to run the risk of Gillian giving you a bad board changer and being unable to activate afterwards. It's a very risky thing sometimes, and Al-Reshka can help overcome that because, well, it's not going to be an issue in that sense because her active skill will not break your activation requirements. So I feel like it gives some merits and benefits to be utilized as a sub, and with a low base cooldown, you can inherit an active skill of your choice over top to provide extra utility as needed. But remember, the passive damage and the L is or are helpful awakenings overall. But as a whole, if you have Sena, it's not worth it to run them as a leader, of course. For Valentine's Andromeda, she provides double Devil Killer, double 7 combo, and can give you more passive damage to the enhanced water combo awakenings. Mono color teams love these awakenings because it just adds so much damage with basically no effort. And they're also an Orb Skin card, so you could technically directly purchase them. So naturally, they're strong against Devil type spawns, and their active skill gives you a self RCV debuff, a bonus orb movement time, and 1 turn of color absorb cancellation. And it's a very fast charging color absorb void, but I don't feel like we have any situation where we need color absorb void that quickly. What we need more so is longer lasting color absorbs, not 1 turn, because the Manoas, it's really hard to one-shot a Manoa in World of Carnage 1. It's just so difficult, and you need minimum 2 turns most likely. So you need 2 turns of color absorb to really be safe. So 1 turn's not really going to cut it, I feel, overall. So it's a bit of an awkward thing there. And another awkward thing is the buffs is RCV and movement time, and that's the exact same buffs that Norza provides. And I know maybe you might say it's a bit of a stretch to compare the two, but maybe not necessarily, because I've established that a 1-turn color absorb is not mandatory at any point in time in this game, really, I feel. You really want to have multiple turns for the Manoa aspect. And Norza will buff your time and your your time and your RCV. So you're kind of overlapping with Andromeda there, but Andromeda does have 2 more skill boosts, so it might help you transform. But Norza is going to be basically on any mono water team. Norza is still one of the strongest, or maybe the strongest mono water leader, at least paired with various things like Blades, Velkhana, Tsukuyomi, like lots of options. But the point is, she's going to be found on a team. So Andromeda could have overwrote those, but Norza can overwrite those as well, and Norza just has more output overall with the orb generation. So I feel like Andromeda is nice, but there's no true place to actually utilize them on if you have other options available. Now, of course, maybe in the future there will be dungeons where we have multiple color absorbs very quickly or very shortly spaced apart, but at this point in time, we don't actually have that. Next is Valentine's Astaroth, and she has potentially meaningful or reasonable personal damage multipliers, but her low attack stat hinders her. She gives you L, she gives you orb enhances, but she doesn't give you the enhanced combos necessarily, which I find are stronger. Like Vishnu, I would much prefer to run them, and she only provides 2 skill boosts, so she's not going to necessarily help you transform for the future green girl whose name I cannot pronounce, but New Year's Artemis is also a viable leader. Albert is a viable leader. Like, you need skill boost to help transform some of these cards. So it may be harder to justify a 2 skill boost card who may not necessarily bring enough to the table. Maybe you might, if you have no way else to get L's or blind resist, maybe it could be helpful. It does give you an RCB buff, but I feel like as a whole, Astaroth kind of falls into the category of okay to good, but not outstanding nor bad. So you might utilize them, you might not. And as a leader, they do have nice big damage reduction, but if you don't tap into both aspects of their damage reduction, they have way too little effective health and will basically get smashed by most things. And their activation comes from matching 5 or more connected orbs, so that should always happen. And then you need to have wood and light. So if you don't have wood and light, it could be problematic. You don't necessarily have a systemable way to like make those orbs all the time. So again, just an average card overall. For Kushinatahime, in her base form, I prefer this form because she can function as a healing solution. She has 3 enhanced heart combos, so providing some healing output there when you match a heart TPA. Her RCV stat isn't the highest. Amaterasu's is much higher, and she can provide 4 skill boosts along with a large amount of damage reduction for 2 turns. And 75% damage reduction for 2 turns is the equivalent to 4 times health for those turns. So you can potentially argue she could be a 6 effective skill boost card if you can layer that. And for things like World of Carnage 2 or Ruler of Hell's Hall, the damage reduction is meaningful because they're large, unavoidable hits. But I feel like the main drawback is she doesn't bring too much else to the team. And if you don't need a healing solution for light or for whatever team you're running, her value does go down. Like utilizing things like Kukan or Shiva are wonderful solutions for damage reduction because they provide a big shield on a low cooldown along with other beneficial awakenings. So I feel like she is reasonable, but I feel like she's outpaced. Like I'm not sure where I could utilize her in for like World of Carnage 2 teams. And if you need a healing solution, well, I feel like Amaterasu does a better job if you're not playing Ruler of Hell's Hall because the damage reduction is probably not as needed. So Kushinatahime I feel is more front-end loaded. You get more effective skill boost right away, but I feel like her value goes down as the dungeon progresses. Whereas Amaterasu is still helpful, partially because her haste can help you cycle other actives, so like your Gillian teams love that sort of idea. So maybe I'm being a little too harsh on her, or maybe I just can't think of a possible a way to utilize her effectively, but if you do have a way in mind, let me know in the comments below. As for her evolve form, it's just a lot of VDP damage. And we have lots of ways to get VDP damage. There's not even that much attack stats. So kind of sad overall. I would definitely keep her in her other form because it has the potential to be a bit more interesting. As a leader, like you do have nice big health, but no damage reduction, no skyfalls. You have to use all pixel cards. It's just a difficult thing to work around, I feel, overall. So I would keep her as a possible healing solution with damage reduction. And then lastly, we come to Valentine's Venus. And Valentine's Venus has the potential for high personal damage multipliers because she can have a 10 combo, 2 7s, and 2 TPA. But the problem is her attack stat is terribly low. If she had a bigger attack stat, she could be a wonderful damage solution across a wide variety of teams. But it's not the case. So she's going to be like an average damage solution, I feel, overall. And her active skill gives you bonus movement time, bonus attack for 1 turn, and then 1 turn of damage reduction based on the number of TPAs on a team. So each TPA adds 10% damage reduction. So with 5 TPAs, so Venus is 2 plus 3 more, 50% damage reduction for 1 turn. It's okay. It's okay. You really want to try and push those numbers really high to make it so you can survive essentially any execute. So the difficulty I feel for Venus is trying to find a truly dedicated place to utilize them on. Like Fasca Raijin teams, maybe you could argue it possibly could have value because then Venus's damage reduction would be high enough. And assuming you have enough skills to transform your Fasca right away, you should be okay. Because Raijin is going to most likely utilize the TPA weapon assist, and then Raijin would have a bunch of TPAs. Venus has a few. You might have a couple others across the team. Your damage reduction becomes a meaningful amount, which allows you to tank most hits. And the buffs are always helpful. So, again, the value of Venus will hinge on if you can leverage that active skill. And I honestly feel like this active skill only has true merits in things like World of Carnage 2, because Shura 1 or World of Carnage 1 doesn't necessarily have the need for damage reduction by comparison. Next comes to the 6-star cards, and now 6 and 5 stars are all just downhill, basically. They're all just terrible cards by comparison. And the 6-star cards feature gemstone-style active skills. And a gemstone-style active skill means that they provide bonus attack based on the number of a specific awakening on your team. So the more common the awakening, the more damage they provide. But the problem with these actives is that they provide no secondary effect. There's no orb changer, there's no bonus combos, there's no absorption counter, and there's no weapon assist. So you don't want to utilize them as a sub on your teams. You might like the active, or maybe not necessarily, but the point of the matter is these are outdated cards. They were great several years ago when you had no other options for burst. Before, when a burst of 2 times was considered pretty good, 2.5 huge. Yeah, like it's outdated, unfortunately. And Facette, she scales off TPAs. I really don't think you're going to have a team with enough TPAs to make it really that meaningful damage output. You need essentially 9 TPAs across a team to get approximately 3 times bonus damage. Leona, from King of Fighters, she gives 3 times damage for 3 turns with an attack reset and a color absorb counter. Like, way more value by comparison. So, like, these bursts are just horribly outdated, and TPA is not a common awakening. Carrot scales off skill boosts, and at least skill boosts are common. Like, if you're farming content in co-op, there's a good chance one of your teams has tons of skill boosts, and using a carrot, even inherited as a non-weapon assist, can provide big burst. Very situational to use, but hey, it's the most common awakening I feel overall. Next is Sheen. Sheen scales off Time Extend. I don't think Time Extend is anywhere near as common compared to skill boost, so it's just going to be harder to truly capitalize on Sheen. I feel like Carrot is the best one just because it's the most universal, and amusingly, several years ago, Carrot was actually the chase card for this event because this type of active skill used to be amazing. Not anymore. Now we come to the 5-star cards, and every single of the 5-star cards serves no meaningful purpose, I feel, overall. Maybe you can make some arguments that they might have some merits for those 5-star rarity challenges, but at the same time, it is not justification enough to roll. You're going to pick up bottom rarity cards throughout your pad life by doing the free rolls for events, and you're probably going to have enough 5-stars lying around to form some sort of team. And because they compromise 55% of the rolling pool, it's just a sad, sad affair overall. So, for Karen, Galenko stopped caring about Karen a long time ago. Like, there's no love in this card whatsoever, and blue is my favorite color, so I decided to talk about her first. Leyland is cute, I guess, but, like, no meaningful purpose, and New Year's Leyland, I feel, was just a stronger thing. At least it was a little bit more personal damage, but even then, hard to justify using. Mei Mei is my least favorite Chinese Celestial. I stand by that statement. She's always been my least favorite. I do have a younger sister who technically I could call Mei Mei, but I love her lots, but I don't care about this Mei Mei. For Sakuya, I used to love Sakuya. She used to be my best leader for like at least a year or two. And we can take a walk down memory lane and just admire this glorious team, because that King Bubbly was a burst of 3 times for physical, and my Sakuya was physical, so I had my leaders hitting extra hard. Kind of crazy times back then. Look at that low health. And that was actually high health because I had 297s, which was rare at the time. But either way, Valentine Sakuya, 4 skill boosts. You can have a Tengu farmable for 4 skill boosts with a lower base cooldown and less effort. Valentine's Haku, same idea. She does have a little bit higher attack set, but a 10 combo, 7 combo, maybe you might argue could work. But again, low rarity challenges. If you can't hit 10 combos, not much meaning overall. So, do I plan to roll and my dream rolls? I do not plan to roll. 82% chance to be sad of a 6 or a 5-star card are terrible odds. But if I can dream, I feel like Valentine's Ideal would be quite fun to have. Like, I always wanted one, and it could make my dreams come true. Maybe Akine might have more value possibly in the longer run because leaders tend to get replaced faster. And Akine's a powerful sub, but I might still just like having Valentine's Ideal. I think she is prettier by comparison, so maybe that counts for something. And I already do have a double TPA weapon assist, so I would possibly get maybe a little less value. But either way, I'm very doubtful of the fact that I'll roll a 1% chance card from my 2 freebies. For 8 stars, I already have Ney, so Sonya is kind of just the default winner. If I didn't have Ney, I probably would still pick Sonya. At least it's possibly a little different. I don't feel like Ney is serving any particular niche at this point in time. For 7 stars, Pano is easily the winner. I would take many Panos. I would like Pano more than any other card in this event, actually. I think they look like a tremendously fun leader to use, but again, difficult to acquire. And for the 6-star cards, they don't serve any purpose, but I'll just take another Carrot, even though I have multiple Carrots, because Carrot is better than Sheen or Facette, and I'm pretty sure I have those anyways. It doesn't really matter. And for blue, Karen, I'll pick because blue is my favorite color. It doesn't matter for the bottom rarity. So in conclusion, I feel like the Valentine's event is a lackluster event to roll in because 82% of the rolls are going to be tremendously disappointing and sad. So for myself, I plan to just do my free rolls and basically forget that the rare machine does exist. If I get lucky, great. If I don't, I'll just move on and keep saving orbs. But with that being said, maybe you have different motivations and goals for your monster box. And if you do end up rolling in this event, tell me how well you rolled and what were you chasing for. Either way, hopefully you'll have a fantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.